Very good evening. Jai Shri Krishna Guru. Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita Satsang, the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. We'll be continuing from chapter 5, the Yoga of Action and Knowledge, and today we will be learning about the marks of the Sankhya Yogi and Nishkama Karma Yogi as described there by Lord Shri Krishna of their glories. So chapter 5 verse 10. He who acts offering all actions to God and shaking off attachment remains untouched by sin as the lotus leaf by water. Oh my God, Lord Shri Krishna has not been teaching anything different. Since the last second chapter, since the last 3 chapters that we have learned, besides the first chapter, Lord Shri Krishna has been teaching Arjuna one very important lesson, and that is about detachment. Why we should not get attached to any action, how we have to perform nishkama karma, that is selfless action alone. So here also again he's giving the same example, he's repeating the same teaching over and over again, because like Arjuna, our mind doesn't allow us to imbibe this lesson. It doesn't allow us to understand. It is always going to cover us with the ignorance. And what does it do? It creates doubts. It keeps throwing doubts, disbelief, and way too many other things. And most important is it keeps dwelling in the sense objects. The moment the senses come in contact with the sense object, it starts dwelling in it. And what happens once it dwells in it? Then comes the attachment. Attachment doesn't come first. Only when it starts dwelling, when your mind dwells in the sense object, then the attachment comes. And from the attachment attachment gives rise to desires, and that is where our fall is. So the moment we get into fulfillment of our desires, then we are running after all the things that we want, especially the desires, one after the other, one after the other. There is no stop, there is no full stop to it at all. So here also the Lord is teaching Arjuna, how do we live? See, it's a very simple lesson. Though it appears or sounds simple, it is not that easy to practice. You know why? Because our mind first goes into everything that we are not supposed to do. The harder you try, the difficult it becomes for you to achieve it. So you have to just do it. My Guruji will always teach this lesson. Just do it. Don't think about it. Don't try to force yourself into it. Because the moment you're trying harder or you force yourself, what happens is that your mind is going to react. It's going to become even more stronger. And then for you to achieve that goal doesn't happen at all. So here is teaching Arjuna. He who acts offering all actions to God and shaking off attachment remains untouched by sin as the lotus leaf by water. Lord Shri Krishna, we always tell, the Lord, you have to live like a lotus leaf. Lord Shri Krishna has always given a comparison to lotus leaf. Because why? He lives untouched by anything that is happening around him, just like the lotus leaf is untouched by the water on it. And most importantly, Lord Shri Krishna stands out, even though living in this material world. We say the muck, right? The material world is a muck. There are a lot of things in this. We see dirt, we see people being bad, everything. We see both the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly. We see all of these aspects, but Lord is beyond all that. He is always standing aloof. He's so beautiful, like the lotus flower which blooms from the muck. Likewise, Lord Shri Krishna, even though living amidst of all the contamination, the material worldly contaminations, he stands out. He is like that beautiful lotus flower. So here also he is telling Arjuna, you have to live like that, completely being detached. Don't get attached to any action, anybody, any object. That is the most important thing that we have to achieve. And how do you achieve? He who acts means he who, whatever action that you perform, you offer everything, all actions to God alone. We've already done, we've learned this. and shaking off attachment. So you have to give up your attachment. Remains untouched by sin. Only when you do this, then no karma accrues to you. You remain untouched by the sin. Even though you're performing karma, there will be no sins accruing to you. Then what does it become? It becomes selfless action, which means you're performing nishkama karma. And as the lotus leaf by water. How does this person live? He becomes exactly like the lotus leaf, which is untouched by the water on it. So let us continue. Verse 11. Chapter 5, verse 11. The karma yogis perform action only with their senses, mind, intellect and body as well. Without a feeling of mind in respect of them and shaking of attachment, simply for the sake of self-purification. Now here again the Lord is teaching Arjuna, how does a karma yogi perform action? The word is karma yogi. Yogi means what? One who is a wise man, one who is a sage and a saint, one who has realized their self, or has an enlightenment. Or has the understanding. He's a knower of the truth. So the yogi means he's also he's in yoga, you can say. I'm not saying all yogis can be in yoga. And there are also different levels of yogi, how you evolve on the path. So everything has its own path as well. And levels to achieve. So here is talking about karma yogis perform action only with their senses. So these are the ones who have attained that perfection in their life. So he's giving an example about the karma yogi. How does this karma yogi live in this world? How does he do actions and what happens to him? So here the karma yogis perform action only with their senses, mind, intellect and body as well. Without the feeling of mind in respect of them. Without the feeling of mind in respect of them. What does it mean? See, again, I've been repeating the same lesson as well over and over again. In this entire chapter, Lord Sri Krishna is teaching nothing but to Arjuna, please lift your bow and arrow and shoot. Your right is to fight alone. You can't say I am not going to fight. You have to perform your Kshatriya dharma, which is very important. You are a born warrior. Kshatriya dharma is very important. You can't say I'm not going to fight. That is what he's been telling Arjuna, and most importantly he's teaching Arjuna that how you can't get attached to anything that you're going to do. Yeah, you're going to kill your kith and kin, but what makes you think that they are your kith and kin? Only this body is born with them. And please remember, were there the same kith and kin in your earlier life? Do you even remember? Of course you don't. But what is making you feel emotionally unstable at this moment in time, especially when you have to fight the war? Now you're sitting and crying like a baby saying, I don't want to fight. Does it behove of a warrior? No, it doesn't. So the Lord is teaching him. So why are you attached? See, the great karma yogis, like all the sages, the saints, the knower of the truth, those who were enlightened beings, they all performed, a nishkama karma, which is selfless action. In their world, the senses were performing in the sense, the gunas were performing in the gunas. They are not attached to any action. Please remember, I give a very beautiful example at all times about my Krishna Guruji. The way he eats his food. See, please remember, he doesn't have the other 4 sheets inside of him. The only sheet that you see is his external body, the food body. It's just like a skeleton. Now, when he eats, there is no mind body existing for him. So what happens is, when the senses come in contact with the sense object, he's just putting an enactment. But for him, there is no reaction. What is the reaction? He's not dwelling in that food. His mind is not enjoying that food. For him, it's the same thing. Whatever you're giving to him, it just doesn't make sense. He's only eating to sustain his body, because his body has to be sustained. That's the only reason why he's eating. But you'll ask him, is he enjoying the food? Is he relishing the food? Of course not. It's just an action he's performing, like what the Lord is saying here. The karma yogis perform action only with their senses. With their senses, mind, intellect and body as well. Without the feeling of mind in respect of them. So he's not feeling, oh, this is mine. He's not attached to any object. I'm just giving an example of eating. So where there is no sense of, oh, it's tasting so yum, I love this, I like this food, I want to eat this more. No. And also, for those of you who know my Krishna Guruji and who have observed the way he eats, See, whatever you have to offer to him, he only takes one serving. So when we offer any food to him, when we serve him, we will serve everything that has been cooked in his thali, in the big plate, We offer everything to him, and that's it. That one serving is all he will take. There is no second serving. So whatever comes in his plate, he will completely finish it. And that is also a teaching that we shouldn't waste food. And he will take that much which he will be able to eat. And if he doesn't want it, even before he has started eating, he will remove them off. He'll ask us to give a plate and he will just remove it off. So this is a method the yogis follow. They have a very perfect way of doing everything. The perfection is what they are known for. So also, you should understand the truth that, you don't have to be attached to any action. The action is something you have to perform. But why is the attachment? The attachment comes only when you allow your mind to dwell in that sense object or whatever that is. Or you feel, is this mine? What is this thing? They will perform without the feeling of mine in respect of them. They don't think it is mine. An example, when we go to work, I'll say it's my job, I love my job, I'm doing such a great thing, I'm fantastic, I'm the greatest. We always have the sense of mine, it is mine. We take ownership. So what is he saying? The sense of doership doesn't exist. In the sense, you only know that you're mere a servant of the Divine Lord. You're an instrument. You're a tool in the hands of the Divine Lord. So the task is being made to perform through you. So you have to perform to your highest of your ability. And what happens is that when you do your work, any work, dedicating everything, all actions to the God, then you're not the doer. The doership rests with the Divine Lord alone. Why? Because he is using you as an instrument, his instrument. You are nothing but a puppet in the hands of a puppeteer. This is the truth that you need to realize. But let me tell you, to practice this understanding within yourself takes a long drawn effort. What is required is you have to put your self-effort. Self-effort is something that which you have to strive. It doesn't come just so easily. Please remember, you have to really strive very hard for it. And only when you put that self-effort will you be able to achieve that which you are striving hard for. Otherwise you can't. Because the sense of that feeling of its mind exists very strong. Why is that mind coming in? Because of the attachment. So what is that you have to give up? You have to give up the attachment to the objects or anything, the task and any action that you do. That is why Lord Shri Krishna says you have to perform nishkama karma, which is selfless action. Here he is teaching all about the selfless action alone. How do you perform a selfless action is what the Lord is teaching us. And shaking off attachment simply for the sake of self-purification. Why do you need to give up the attachment? Simply for the sake of self-purification. What does it mean? Here we are talking about the lower self-purification. We have to purify our mind, body, intellect, our soul, everything, right? That ego has to be destroyed. So the lower self has to be completely purified. Only when your lower self is purified do you go upwards to attain that higher self. And that is what we have to do. So what is being purified? Your lower self. And what is that? Why you should do this is because simply for the sake of self-purification. So till the time your heart is not purified, your mind is not purified, and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Divine Lord doesn't happen, where is the question of you attaining that supreme goal through action? That is, the path of yoga of action cannot be achieved. Please remember, it's very, very critical for us to follow this path. The moment you follow this path, then you will understand no matter what task comes, you're not going to be stressed. Have you seen people working in corporate world or anywhere else? They're always stressed because they think they are the ones who's the doer. They take ownership. They think, oh, I am the greatest. It's because of me this world is running. My company is running. That is the kind of ownership they have. And they also become very miserable because they fall prey to what everybody is saying about them. If your manager scolds you, you will feel very bad. You know what? Your mind is going to be dwelling. It is attached to that object, which is called your manager scolded you. He said all bad things about you. Now, how are you going to overcome? Your mind is going to be, irritated. It's rankling you endlessly, saying it's not right. Your boss did this to you. You have to take revenge. You have to give it back to him. You can't just let him get away with murder. These are the ways in which your mind will instigate you. But what is required? You just ignore. Somebody is talking through their mind. Why are you allowing your mind to speak? Why are you eating that muck of someone else's mind? It's fine. Like my Guruji will teach us, if your boss yells at you, think that he's got piles. He had a bad day with his wife, or his wife must have said something to him. So he's coming and taking it on you. The moment we think like this, then we are not going to get attached to what the person says or does. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect us. So we should not allow our mind to dwell in that object and get attached to it. But if you take it personally and if you take it to your heart, then what happens? You've come in a karma. You've come in bondage with that manager of yours, and which means that sin has to be repaid, right? There's a sin performed. You're accruing karma, both your manager and yourself. So in some other life, you have to be that manager to give it back to him. Because in this life, it is not going to get equated. That is the reason why Lord Shri Krishna is saying, why do you need to sanction yourself furthermore lives? And that too, coming back with the same kind of people whom you don't even want to be associated with. So therefore, become detached. Why do you have to have attached? And that is for what? Simply for the sake of self-purification. If you want to evolve on the path, you have to work like this in this world. Until the time you don't do this kind of a job, that is nishkama karma, selfless action, we are never going to be able to achieve that perfection. That yoga is not going to be achieved by us. What is yoga? Union with the Divine Lord. So that is why we say work is worship. And no matter what job that you do, you have to be very dedicated and committed to that. But today, if you look at the world, nobody has that attention span. Nobody is dedicated. That single-pointed devotion doesn't exist at all. Why? Because our mind is running hither-thither. The attention span is very limited. We don't have focus. Focus means ekagrata. You have to have that single-pointed devotion. That focus is missing. If I want to do some job, then I will go into my social media. I will waste 1 hour. I'm not joking. Social media is such an addictive thing. People, the moment you'll say, I'll watch this one video in Reels, okay? And then you wouldn't even realize when you have wasted 1 hour in your life. Just scrolling through this Reels. And what have you learned from that? Nothing. So this is how today social media keeps us hooked. And then what happens? We have lost that time. Yesterday my Guruji was teaching a very profound lesson. And what is the lesson? I asked him, recently, we were talking to somebody. At that time he said, we don't make money. Yeah, we have to create wealth. But wealth is to establish righteousness or dharma. Sorry. So what does this wealth mean? What is the real meaning of wealth? Wealth doesn't mean material worldly possessions. Wealth also doesn't mean that, you strive to make more money and the money which is going to constantly keep, increasing in your bank accounts and all that. That wealth has no value because that will come, that will go away. It doesn't matter. You can give somebody the money. But what impact does it have? You tell. That money will be utilized and after that, that person will even forget. So that money has no value. But if you make an impact with your goodness, with your kindness, with the love that you show for this world, genuinely you're caring about somebody, you're ensuring their well-being, isn't that the greatest impact that you can make? And that is the wealth you live. So what happens to that individual? That individual will also say, somebody did this to me, so I have to also be nice in this world. I have also to be good and kind to other people. Isn't that an impact that you're creating? And that wealth cannot be taken away. It cannot be measured in measured in terms of, it cannot be quantified. You can't measure it. You can't have a price tag to that. You can't say this is the value that it has. No, there is no value that you can, associate with that wealth that you create. And that is all about your own self, how good you are in this world. What kind of an impression do you form in other people's mind? What kind of impression do you leave? What kind of footprint you want to leave in this world? People should not remember you as a very bad and mean person. We have definitely encountered with a lot of people in this world. Sometimes you say, with that person, I never want to be ever associated in my life. Why would you have to stoop down to that level? Please remember one very important lesson. Wealth is something which is indispensable, that which you can offer to the world and yet it will not vanish. It is going to be there. That is the kind of wealth. Like I gave an example, time is wealth, but do we value time? It's a very sad story that I just got to know. Someone we know, one of our neighbors, husband passed away. This is a young girl, they're a young couple. This gentleman was just 42 years old. And suddenly he had some, massive chest pain. So they rushed him to the hospital. The car had to be stopped at 3 signals and they had no choice, but that 3 signals cost him his life. Even before he was taken to the hospital, he passed away due to massive heart attack. And it was a very sad story. Now, once they reached the hospital, the doctor informed them that had they made it 5 minutes back, they would have somehow been able to save his life. But the delay had cost him his life. Do you realize the importance of time in our life? But a man doesn't think that time is wealth. He thinks that, time, they can fritter away time, they can waste time. Why do we waste time? Time is something we have to respect. And Lord Sri Krishna has mentioned that I am that very supreme, Kal. I am the time myself. I am the very essence of the mighty Kala. Kala is time. But why is that we don't pay attention to that? Why do we not give importance to time? We think we have all the time in the world. That is because we don't have a goal. We don't aspire to do something in this world. We think everything has to fall in our lap. Everything it has to be given to us in a platter. We don't want to work hard today. This is the world we have entered into. And thanks to pandemic has enabled this. Now what is it we have to overcome? We have to overcome what we have gotten into, which is tamas, which is full of inertia, lethargy, laziness, all that. The sloth, the kind of feeling, like we say sloth bear. What does it mean? We are very slow in our approach. We don't want to do things faster. We think there is all the time in the world for us to, do. So, but this person died. He lost his life. Now what happens to that young wife of his, she's a widow now with 2 children, 2 young children. And she's going to live in regrets all her life, thinking about her husband. Wish we could have just made it 5 minutes before. My husband's life would have been saved. Isn't that a torture for her? Of course it's a torture. Is she going to blame herself? Is she going to blame the traffic? Who is she going to blame now? But that is what life is all about. We don't respect time. We don't value what you have. So wealth is time. Please remember, time is wealth. And when you understand that these are the wealth that we are talking about, the real essence of what wealth means. It is not about some, having $100 million in your Swiss account and all that. That will anyway go away one day. It has no value. It will go into dust. Somebody will take that money will be used, you will be dead and gone. That is nothing. What is the legacy that you want to leave for this future generation? That is what you have to think. So we create a wealth, and wealth is to establish dharma. Sai Baba says all the time. We make wealth not because we enjoy or only our kith and kin or immediate family members live a very good life and a happy life. No, we make that wealth so that we can distribute the wealth in this world for the cause of, for the good cause. There is a cause, and that cause has to always be for the welfare of this human being. That is the cause we have to make that wealth for. And wealth along the path also means the kind of life that you have led. People should remember you for that. She was a great being. She was a very good being, loving being. I want to be like her. She's my role model. That is how she or he, whoever you wish to call, right? They have to become your role model. You have to know them for being that. Today, take an example of Mother Teresa. Don't we remember Mother Teresa for being the most compassionate being? Of course, her kindness, her love. She worked with all this leprosy patients. She never felt it is disgusting to work with them. You know how difficult it is to nurse a leprosy patient, because they're oozing, the pus and the blood is oozing out all the time from their wound. The body is smelling. But she never felt disgust with that. On the contrary, she was serving. And imagine how many other people followed her. How many people followed her? Of course, they said, we also want to do this beautiful service that you're doing. Isn't she a great person? Of course. She, of course, will attain the divine. She did this for a cause. She served the world. She served the creation of the divine Lord. She did not think it is not her job. She didn't think, what is it I'm getting? Why should I do it? She never thought any of those things. So this is how we have to also think. We have to make our life useful. For whatever this God has made us, be born as a human being, we have to serve that purpose. And selflessly. She did a selfless job. She performed nishkam karma. So she attained the divine Lord. That is what she did. She was very short, sweet looking woman, old. Even after so many years of her life, she continued serving. She never stopped. She used to go meet all the great people in this world to raise funds. Was it for her? She wore a simple garment, very simple. She didn't have any fancy things with her. She didn't have a big bungalow and any of those. She didn't even aspire for that. But what did she raise that funds for? So that she can do good in this world. There has to be a genuine cause. And it is all about the welfare of the human beings, not just I, me, myself. That is what even the Lord is saying. So, and shaking off attachment without the feeling of mind and respect of them, and shaking off attachment simply for the sake of self-purification. So this is what you need to understand, simply for the sake of self-purification. So don't keep thinking you're doing anything for, you're doing it for your satisfying your ego, satisfying that, I have to achieve, I need a name, fame, recognition. Please remember, that has no value. People will not even remember you tomorrow. If you don't make that, if you don't, establish a credential in this world, you should be known for something. And so what do you want to become? Ask yourself this question. What will you do with that money? Yeah, you'll save for a rainy day. We say, no, we are thinking tomorrow something happens. We need to have enough money so that we should be taken care of. But who has seen a tomorrow? Nobody knows what the tomorrow is looking like. So live for the day. Live in this moment. Make your life worth it. And that is the legacy you have to leave behind for this world. And it is not about material wealth. Material wealth has no value. It is only a facilitator. That facilitator is so that, things can be, done in this world. It's only a facilitator. But the greatest wealth is, it's what, impact that you leave on people. What kind of values do you inculcate in them? That is the wealth that you have to create. So hope you've understood this. This is a very important verse. So let us continue. Chapter 5, verse 12. Offering the fruit of actions to God, the Karma Yogi attains everlasting peace in the form of God realization. Whereas he who works with a selfish motive, being attached to the fruit of actions through desire, gets tied down. See, actually we discussed all of this right now. So what is the Lord telling Arjuna? He's saying, offering the fruit of actions to God, the Karma Yogi attains everlasting peace in the form of God realization. So what is the ultimate goal? When you offer the fruit of actions means whatever the end result, whether it is success or failure, it should not bother at all. And whatever comes, we just say Krishna Arpan. The moment you do Arpan, you have to do Samarpan. Samarpan means you, from your entire mind, body, senses, being, everything you surrender unto the lotus feet of the divine Lord. Here also is saying offering the fruit of actions to God. So we have to do samarpan, whatever that outcomes are. It is none of our business. Sometimes we think, look at this happened to me. My Guruji taught something very powerful. He said, yesterday I was attributing certain things to my Guruji. I said, thank you so much. Everything happens so beautifully. And how this world works, how your universe works is unfathomable, is what I was telling him. So he did not take credit to that. He said, who am I? I'm not doing. God does everything, he said. And at that time, he also said, you're just attributing it to me. But at the end of the day, God does it. Yes, he is God. So God does it. God does it in the sense God himself doesn't do it. It is the will of the divine Lord. At the same time, his mother nature, Prakriti, does it. The nature works. And everybody around him, all the Siddhis, Ashtasiddhis are always saying Tatastu. They are ever ready to serve him. So his Prakriti does everything for the divine Lord. And then he said, please remember, if somebody has to say something bad to you or somebody is good to you, whatever that is, it is part of your destiny. And that event has happened, and it has happened for a certain reason. It's your karma that you're going through. The prarabdha karma is what you're experiencing. So it is better that you just ignore it. You don't get attached to what happens. And the moment you get attached or you go you fight that. Then what happens? We get tied down. That time we get into bondage. And then we are always driven by our selfish motive. So we become an ordinary human being. But how do you become karma yogi? How do you achieve that everlasting peace? How do you attain the fruit of, the karma yogi attains everlasting peace in the form of God realization. Everlasting peace. How do you attain that? That is only when you perform any action selflessly. You're not attached to that action at all. Until such time, you will always keep suffering. Please let me tell you, it is very, very, very difficult to achieve this state. You have to strive really hard. In chapter 2, Lord Sri Krishna has mentioned to Arjuna, strive to practice the yoga of equanimity. Strive to practice. See, I keep repeating this time and again. You know why? Because we don't strive. We don't want to put effort. And today I told you already, given that we are living in a Kali Yuga, which is completely tamas, very difficult for people to move move from the place they are sitting to do anything. Everybody wants to, operate in a remote control world. They want everything happening at the touch of their finger, which is what the world has, the Kali Yuga has already enabled them. So you see, they'll take a phone, I'll order food today. Oh, I don't feel like cooking, come on, let's go order something. So what do? They'll order Zomato, Swiggy, and they'll say, okay, where is the best deal? Oh, today I'll eat this food, tomorrow I'll eat this food. So what happens? So they are actually moving away from that practice of cooking. And they don't know what kind of food they are eating also. Do you have any idea? Have you gone and seen the kitchen from where you're ordering? See, once in a while is okay. Like my Guruji will tell us, we need to have a balanced meal. So once in a month, we generally say, okay, we'll have food outside. So that your stomach, you have that all kinds of gut bacteria exist. And there is a very big science behind it. The truth about why you should eat a holistic meal and why it is important to eat the food that you are accustomed to. You are born in a certain family. That certain family has a tradition of eating the kind of food that they are used to. They have a practice. And you can't go off that path of not eating that food. And when you do that, then you're changing your entire genetic system. That is why it is not just the genetic modification happens in the seed alone. You're also genetically modifying your own self. So why do you want to get into that? And you don't understand the repercussions that exist, because what is missing is knowledge. The right knowledge is not there. We don't know any of these things. We don't learn. We don't want to find out. We think that the way we are living is how it is. That is a perfect life. And we don't want to listen given to our own ego and pride and think no end of ourselves. We think we know it all. This is the problem today, why the world is facing so much of issues. If you look at the health issues today, people are getting such weird diseases which was never heard before. You go back in time and think about your ancestors. They never suffered all of this. They were living a very peaceful life. What were they doing? The karma yogi attains everlasting peace in the form of God realization. Have you thought about how your forefathers lived? They lived a very God-pleasing life. And how did they live? They did their karma, means they performed their actions. They were very contented with what God gave them. They didn't want more and more and more. They were not greedy. And in their world, they were very kind to everybody. They would share with others. There was always a welcoming attitude. Have you seen today's world? You don't know who is your neighbor. We don't even smile at our neighbor. We're so rude. People have become very rude, heartless. They don't have a heart anymore. They don't want to, they don't mingle with anybody. What is their best friend today? The phone and the computer. That is what they're living on. So where is the question of having a good life? I'm sorry, everybody's living in a loneliness. That is what has gotten into. You need to have that harmony. You need to live in a community. That community is missing today. In those days, we would all live in such a harmonious manner. If there is a festival that is being celebrated, all our neighbors will come together. We'll, exchange whatever we have bought. We'll distribute sweets. There was just a happy people we were. I miss that life, I feel, living in this isolation is such a disruptive thing. That goodness is gone today. That love doesn't exist. There's a very beautiful book called Ikigai. In that, it's talking about how do you live happily. And it's all about a place in Japan, a village, where everybody is living more than, they're all 100 plus years, and yet they're so happy. And what does that teach? It was teaching all about how do you live in a community where you're taking care of everybody equally. It's not like if I have more, I'll distribute what I have. I'll share it with others. We say sharing is caring. Sharing? Nobody wants to give anything to anybody. The sharing is caring is not there anymore. Those values are out of our system. Nobody is practicing it today. Why? Because we become a very mean people. We become very selfish. Here the Lord is saying. So he's saying here, I'm only explained the first half. Let us see what is he saying. Whereas he who works with a selfish motive, being attached to the fruit of actions through desire, gets tied down. So what happens? We become bound to the karma, bound to everything, and we become very mean people. So where is the question of you're giving to somebody, you're sharing, you're very attached, you're very selfish. There is a selfish motive. There's a selfish motivation behind everything that you do. You're not doing it selflessly. So what happens when you do for your selfish reasons? Then only you're benefiting. There is no bigger purpose in your life. You're not serving the purpose of the divine Lord. You're not serving the universe of this Lord. And there's no harmony. We're all only caring about ourselves. Oh, I want a big house. I want to have $1 billion in my bank account. I want to, go have a yacht. Those are our dreams. I want to go on a fancy holiday. Our desires are endless. So where is the question, or where is even the time for you to think about the world? We don't have any time to think about the world. We're not bothered about other people. And that's the reason why we cannot live in this world, and everything will have to then get destroyed. And destruction comes about. Please remember, pandemic was it's an alarm. It's like a wake-up call. But do you think really people woke up? No, on the contrary, they have gone into a different zone altogether. Yeah, I was told, somebody was telling me that pandemic has definitely made people spiritual. What spiritual? Oh, really? They don't even know what spirituality means. Spirituality means, the truth about spirituality is, I am not the body, I am the spirit. So why are we attached to the body, mind, senses? So what is that is driving them to become spiritual? It is not spiritual. Again, it's a selfish motive. Oh, I want to be good. I don't know what happens tomorrow. If I die, then what happens? So I want to be peaceful. I want to go and enjoy my life. That is what has pandemic enabled. They want to understand some truth in life, because there is always a disruption, right? Pandemic brought about a lot of disruptions. So people didn't know how to cope up with that, and they thought that, oh, now I have to focus on really doing something for myself. Again, it is about yours. It's about mine. It's mine. It's not about the world. It's not about thou. My Guruji will always say it has to be thou. It's not about I, me, myself. Hamma. No, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji will say this. Very beautiful teaching, in which he says, when the calf is young, it's always doing hamma. The moment we remove the skin and we're tanning, you have to do that. There's a tanning which is done. At the time, there's a sound that comes, tuhu. At that time, once you've removed that ego, then it's thou. It's not I. So we have to get out of that I, me, myself. It's very difficult, let me tell you, because we don't have that big-heartedness. My Guruji will always tell us, you have to have a big-heartedness. Yeah, God has given you so that you can also distribute this wealth. Again, wealth is not necessarily everything that materialistic, right? Wealth is about your goodness. First, you need to have that wealth to give. So earn that wealth. How do you earn? By practice. By understanding the truth about what life is all about. It is not done so that, you can get some name. Oh, it's not about to get a Nobel Prize. People do it because they want some awards, accolades, rewards, you name it, recognition, all that. But that is again ego, right? It boosts your ego. Oh, look, I am the greatest in this world. I won the Nobel Prize. That is not what we mean. We mean you have to earn that goodness. And goodness comes when you perform nishkama karma. It's one of the path. It's one of the ways to achieve it. But when you are selfish, your motivated action, your any action that is motivated towards your fulfilling your own selfish desires, please remember, you will get into attachment to the fruit. The end result is what you're going to always be bothered about. Whatever the action you perform, you'll say, I need this to be the end result. That is why I'm performing this action. So you're going to be attached to the fruits of the action. And then what happens? Through the desire, and then through the desire, what is driving you to that attachment to the fruits of the action is desire, and that gets you tied down. You will get into bondage to eternity, and there is no getting out of it. Forget about all that I've spoken just now, expounded rather. It's never going to happen. You're always going to be a small petty human being on this planet Earth who's going to be unhappy. You're always going to be bothered about yourself. You're never going to be contented at all ever. No matter how much you have, you'll still say, I don't have. You will not be happy with yourself nor the world around you. You'll be a miserable human being. And then what happens? You have sanctioned yourself lifetimes of birth and death. I don't know to eternity you would have sanctioned. And then with every other person, you have to keep coming back again and again to repay that karma. This is what will happen. So why do you need that? So rise above, wake up, and do something beautiful in this world. Selfless action, selfless service, become nishkama karma. Perform nishkama karma. So, what is it you have to renunciate? Not renunciate. Offering. You have to offer all the fruits of action to the Divine Lord. Don't take ownership of it. Don't take credit of it. Whether it is good, bad, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, please remember, what is due to you will anyways come to you. If some things happen, accept it, saying, okay, the Divine Lord, it's a will of Him. So it's a very beautiful lesson again. The one who gives and one who takes is the Divine Lord alone. So why fight? Why resist? Don't bother. Whatever you have, be very contented. Truth is what you have to aspire to be. And do every task in love alone. Not with angst, hatred, or with selfish motive. Never perform anything for your own hidden agenda. So with that, we'll stop today's satsang here at verse 12, that chapter 5, verse 12. Next satsang will continue from verse 13 onwards. Thank you for joining Sri Bhagavad Gita Satsang, the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Om Shri Mahaganapate Namaha, Om Shri Gurudev Datta, Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Digambara Digambara Shripad Vallabha Digambara. Om Shri Krishna Gurunatha Natha Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Devi Durgaya Namaha. Om Shri Krishna Arpanam Namastu. Krishnam Vandam Vande Jagat Guru.